Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Judith and this is Judith Fashion TV. Today we will learn how to make a basic skirt. The measurements that we need for this class are the waist measurement, which is 32. So you divide your waist measurement by 4 and you will get 8. You add 1. This 1 inch will be for the part. So the total waist measurement will now be 9. The next measurement is the hip measurement. The hip measurement is 40. 40 divided by 4 will give you 10. Then then the next measurement will be the hip depth. So the hip depth is the fullest part of your hip and is 9. So the next measurement will be the full length of the skirt. This depends on where you want the length of your skirt to be. So but for the purpose of this class, we'll be using 23. So hip length, the full length will be 23. Then the last but not the least will be the bust distance, which is also nipple to nipple and is 8. So let's start the drafting. So first of all, you measure out like 1 or 2 inches. So this will be your starting point. This is where all your measurements will start from. So once you measure it out, then the next thing is to start putting in your measurements. So first of all, you measure out the full length of the skirt. So the full length is 23. So 23. So we mark out 23. Then you leave the hem allowance that we use to fold in the skirt. So after marking in 23, you mark it at different points on the pattern so as to get a straight line. So you draw your straight line. All right. Once you are done with that, the next is to put in your waist measurement. So our waist measurement, we got 9. That's 8 inches for the actual waist, then 1 inch for the dart. So I'll mark out 9 inches for the waist measurement. Then the next measurement will be the hip depth. The hip depth is 9 inches. So you mark out your 9 inches. So on this line, this is the line where we are going to mark out the actual hip, the hip measurement. So remember, the hip measurement is 40, and we divided the hip. So we divided the 40 by 4 to get 10. This is where we are going to mark out the 10 inches. That's 40 divided by 4 will give you 10. So we are going to mark out 10. Yeah, we're going to mark out this 10. So without wasting time, let's mark out 10. We'll mark it out. Mark it out. Yes, we'll mark out 10. Then we'll also mark out the same 10 inches for the hip at the hem line. Once we are done, then we use our ruler to draw it out. You also draw it out, make sure you draw it out well. Then you blend it in, you blend in all the sharp edges. You have to blend it in so that it won't be sharp. So the next thing we are going to do is to add the darts. Remember distance is 8. This bust distance is also known as nipple to nipple, and you divide your bust distance by 2. So if you divide it by 2, you will get 4. So it is on this, you mark out 4 inches, but the actual length of the dart should be 4, 5 or 6, depending on what you want and the size of your client. So on this waistline, yeah, this waistline, this is where we're going to put in the dart. So let's put in the dart, which is 4 inches. So I'm going to measure out 4 inches now. Yeah, this is 4 inches. Please ensure you keep your tape well. You place your tape well. You measure out the same 4 inches so as to get a straight line. So here you measure out the 5 inches. This is the actual length of the dart. You understand? Yeah. So you measure out 5 inches. Then you draw it out. You draw a straight line. Yeah. Once you are done with that, this you place your tape to measure out half inch before the dot line and half inch after the dot line. Then before and after, hope you understand. Yeah, before and after the dot line, you measure out half inches before and after. Then using your ruler, you draw in your dart leg. So this is called dart leg. You draw it in. Please place it well so as to get a very good dart. You have to draw it in to get a perfect dart. Once you are done with that, so let's first of all let's do recap on what we have done so far. So this is the waist, and this is the dart. One half inch before and half inch after, making it 1 inch dart. So this is the dart, and the waist is 8 inches according to our measurement. Then the next is the hip. Remember, this is our hip. We divided 40 by 4 to get 10, and this is our hemline. So the next is to shape in the skirts. Sometimes you will see some skirts, it will be fitted, it will be so fitted that you keep wondering how they did it. So from that hemline, you can bring it in by 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, depending on how fitted you want the skirt to be. If you are making it for an older person, you can leave it like this. But if you want it to be well fitted, you can bring it in by 1 inch, 2 inches, or 3 inches. But for the purpose of this class, I'll bring it in by 1 inches, and then from the hemline I'll draw it in. Yeah, that's it. So from the hemline I'll draw it in to get a penciled skirt. If you want it to be more fitted, you can use 1.5 or 2 inches, depending on what you want to get a very fitted skirt. So, and this is the hemline. This is what you use to fold in your skirt. You can use lining to turn it in, but you can use 1.2, 1.5, depending on what you want. So this line, we no longer need this line. So let's cancel it out. So all our measurements will be will be from the new line. So I'm going to put in the allowance, which is 1.5. I'm using 1.5 for this class. So I'll put 1.5 allowance. Yeah. So from this new line, not from the one I cancelled out. So from the new line, this is where you start putting in the 1.5. You put in 1.5 here, then 1.5 again from the new line, the 1.5 from the new line, 1.5 again from the new line. Then using your ruler, you draw it out. This is your allowance, the skirt allowance. All right. Okay, guys, remember sometimes if you see some people when they wear their skirt, you will notice that the front part is folded due to a big tummy. You understand? So in order to resolve this issue, this is what you will do. From the waistline, you remove half inch. Guys, listen, just watch and see what I will do now. I'm going to remove half inch from the waistline. Yeah, from that side I will remove half inch. So when you remove the half inch, guys, watch and see what I'll do. I'm going to remove half inch. If your client, if the tummy is too big, you can remove 1 inch depending on how big your client's tummy is. So but for this class, I'm going to remove half inch from the waist. Then anything you remove from that side, you have to put it back. You have to put it back. So the half inch that I removed here, I also put half inch the other side. So I will now draw it in. Please, when you draw, ensure that it doesn't eat into the that. So guys, watch how I'll do it. Just watch how I'll draw it in. Yeah, you draw it in. You see? So make sure it doesn't eat into the that. Perfect. So this is how to make your basic skirt. This is how to draft in. It's very easy. It's very simple. So next, we are going to do the back pattern using this front piece. We'll place it on the back. Then we'll make we'll draft the back pattern. So guys, let's draft the back pattern. We are going to place the front pattern and use it to draft the back pattern. But first of all, let's measure out 2 inches. This is where we are going to mark out our zip allowance. So once you measure out your 2 inches, you get your front pattern, you place it well, place it well. All right, then you mark out your front pattern, you mark it out. Please mark it out well. You mark it out, you mark out the waist, you mark everything out. All right. Yeah, so once you are done marking it out, the next thing you would do is to use your ruler. You're going to use your ruler to draw it out. So watch how I'll be doing this. So guys, remember the darts. I want to transfer the darts from the front pattern onto the back pattern. So I just marked it out now. So this is the darts. I'll mark it out. I'll use my ruler and draw it out. So guys, the difference between the front pattern and the back pattern, you see though you see the half inch that we removed from the waist, it won't be necessary here. So we are going to draw it, but we won't remove that half inch. We'll just put the half inch at the side, but the one that was done at the center, the half inch that we removed at the center, will not be doing it. But this is the one that we're going to duplicate. You understand? But the one we did at the center, it won't be necessary for the back pattern. So let's draw it in. Let me draw it in. Yeah, it won't be necessary. So I'm going to draw it in now. All right, guys. So let's talk about the folding at the back. To get a perfect skirt, you see you see those foldings that you see at the back of your skirt. If you want to eliminate the folding, what you will do is that from the waist, from this waist here, from the waist, we are going to remove half inch or 1 inch. If your client, yeah, from that side, if your client is big, if you have a client that has a very big hip, you can remove 1 inch. But if the hip of your client is moderate, you will just remove half inch from the waist, then you draw it out the half inch. Then on the hip line, I'll remove 1 inch above and also 1 inch below above and 1 inch below the hip line. Then using my ruler, I will draw it. Please guys, when you are drawing it in, please ensure it doesn't eat into your hip line. So on the hemline, you remove 1 inch again. Then using your ruler, you draw it in, guys. Use your ruler, draw it in. All right, guys. So from the hemline here, you have to put in the zip allowance from the new line actually. So you start putting in the zip allowance. This line, you no longer need this line, so I've cancelled it out. So I'm going to start putting in 1.5 inches for the zip allowance. So I'll put in 1.5 inches, 1.5. I also put in 1.5. I also put in 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. I'll put in 1.5 inches for the zip allowance. Then using my ruler, I'm going to draw it in. Please guys, when you are doing this, just be careful. You get, just be very careful. Use your ruler and draw it in. Then draw in your zip allowance. So draw it in, guys, draw it in. All right, so blending, you see, yeah, any sharp edge, guys, anywhere you see a sharp edge, just use your hand and blend it in properly. Blend it in. So easy. We are done with today's tutorial on how to make a basic skirt. So this is the back piece. Yeah, so guys, I don't know if I should make a video on how to take measurements, how to take proper measurements. I don't know if I should make a video on that, but we are definitely done with this basic skirt. So now I have to cut it out. Let me cut it out. I'll cut out the back pattern. Yeah, once I'm done with that, then it's basically to place it on to my fabric and cut it out. I don't know if you need a video on that too, how to cut it out, how to apply your gum stay, how to iron it, how to sew it. I don't know if I should make a video on that, but if you really need the video, you can drop your comments and I will make a video on that. But basically, we are done with this class.